Welcome to QuickSpeak the English podcast that helps you improve your English skills one conversation at a time. We're diving into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring how to read people's emotions, thoughts, and intentions, all through their body language and facial expressions.
Right.
Think of it like learning a secret code, a language everyone speaks but few truly understand.
It's true. We often reveal more than we intend to through our nonverbal cues.
Huh.
Even when we try to control our words,
Right.
our bodies can tell a different story.
So how do we crack this code? Where do we even begin to decipher these unspoken messages?
Let's start with something you might have already experienced.
Oh.
Those gut feelings you get about someone,
Yeah.
even if you've only just met them.
Right.
Have you ever felt instantly comfortable with someone? Or maybe got a sense that something wasn't quite right, even though they were being perfectly polite?
Yes.
Ah.
I think we've all had those experiences.
Ah.
But I never really understood what was going on.
That's where nonverbal communication comes in.
Okay.
Those initial impressions are often based on a subconscious reading of body language and facial expressions.
Interesting.
For example, a genuine smile, one that reaches the eyes and creates those little crinkles we call crow's feet, can instantly make us feel at ease.
Yeah.
Our brains are wired to perceive this as a sign of trustworthiness.
So it's not just about being polite. It's about projecting sincerity through those small nonverbal signals.
Right.
I'm starting to see how powerful this can be.
And the opposite is true as well.
Okay.
If someone is saying all the right things, but their body language contradicts their words, it can trigger a sense of unease or distrust in us.
Right.
Imagine someone praising your work while avoiding eye contact and fidgeting.
I can see how that would send mixed messages and make me question their sincerity.
Yeah.
It's almost like a sixth sense.
You could call it that.
Hmm.
We are constantly picking up on these subtle cues, processing them on a subconscious level.
Right.
But by bringing this process into our conscious awareness, we can really sharpen our understanding of the people around us.
So if we learn to read these nonverbal cues, we can better understand people's true feelings and intentions.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that understanding can be incredibly valuable in all sorts of situations, from navigating professional relationships to building deeper connections in our personal lives.
This is starting to feel like a superpower, unlocking a whole new level of understanding about the people we interact with.
And like any superpower,
Yeah.
it takes practice and attention to detail.
Right.
We need to learn to pay attention to those subtle cues that most people overlook.
Okay, I'm ready to start training.
Great.
What are some of the key things we should be looking out for?
One area to focus on is what we call micro-expressions.
Micro-expressions.
These are fleeting facial expressions that can reveal a person's true feelings, even if they're trying to mask them.
Fleeting. How long do they last?
Sometimes only a fraction of a sec, but they are like tiny windows into a person's emotional state, and so quickly that they often go unnoticed, but they can be incredibly revealing.
So if we learn to spot these micro-expressions, we can basically become human lie detectors.
Well, I wouldn't say it's quite that simple,
Okay.
but it can certainly give you an edge in understanding when someone might not be entirely truthful or when they might be holding back their true feelings.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So how do we train ourselves to see these micro-expressions? They sound so quick and subtle.
One way is to start by familiarizing yourself with the 7 universal emotions.
Okay.
Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt.
Got it.
Each of these emotions has specific facial expressions associated with them
Uh-huh.
that are recognized across cultures.
Interesting.
Think of them as the basic vocabulary of facial expressions.
So if we learn to recognize these basic expressions, we can start to spot them even when they happen very quickly,
Yes.
like learning a new alphabet to decipher a secret code.
And with practice, you'll start to see them everywhere. You'll notice them in conversations on television, even in passing interactions on the street.
I'm starting to realize that there's a whole world of nonverbal communication happening all around us that I've been completely oblivious to.
It's like suddenly gaining a new sense. And the more you pay attention, the more you'll realize just how much information is being conveyed through these unspoken channels.
This is truly mind-blowing.
It is fascinating as
I'm
well.
eager to learn more.
Okay.
So we've talked about micro-expressions.
Right.
But what other body language signals should we be paying attention to?
Well, another fascinating aspect of nonverbal communication is how people use their bodies to create personal space and signal comfort or discomfort.
You mean like when someone steps back when you get too close?
Exactly.
Okay.
We all have a personal space bubble that we like to maintain.
Yeah.
When that space is invaded, it can trigger feelings of unease or anxiety.
I've definitely felt that before, especially in crowded places.
Right.
But how does this tie into reading people's emotions and intentions?
It's about understanding those subtle shifts in posture and positioning.
Okay.
For example, if someone leans towards you during a conversation, it generally suggests they are interested and engaged.
And what about when someone leans back or turns away?
That could signal disinterest or discomfort.
Okay.
Of course, it's always important to consider the context.
Yeah.
Someone leaning back in their chair might simply be relaxed, not necessarily disengaged.
So it's not about interpreting any single gesture in isolation,
Yeah.
but rather looking at the whole picture.
Exactly.
I see.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Okay.
Each nonverbal cue is a piece of information that helps us understand the bigger picture of what someone is thinking and feeling.
Mhm.
And the more pieces we can put together, the clearer the image becomes.
This is really making me think differently about how I approach conversations.
Yeah.
I've never considered how much I might be revealing through my own body language.
We all do it, often unconsciously.
Right.
But by becoming more aware of our own nonverbal signals, we can become more effective communicators and build stronger relationships.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable, especially for English learners who are already navigating the complexities of a new language.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Nonverbal communication can be a powerful tool for bridging language barriers and conveying meaning, even when words fail us.
This is also fascinating.
It is.
It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic.
We have.
There's so much more to explore.
There is, but this is a great start.
Okay.
And with practice, you'll be amazed at how much you can learn about people just by observing their body language and facial expressions.
Yeah.
It's like gaining access to a hidden language, a language that speaks volumes about who we are and what we truly think and feel.
That's amazing.
It is a powerful tool. And speaking of English learners, this knowledge of nonverbal communication can be especially valuable for them. It's like having an extra tool in your communication toolkit.
That's a great point. I can see how understanding body language could help bridge the gap when you're still learning a language.
Exactly. Imagine you're in a conversation and you're not sure if the other person understands you.
Yeah.
You can watch their nonverbal cues for clues. Are they leaning and nodding, making eye contact?
Uh-huh.
Or are they furrowing their brows, looking confused, or maybe even subtly turning away?
Those subtle signals could tell me if I need to slow down, rephrase something, or maybe use simpler words.
Precisely. It's like getting real-time feedback on your communication.
Right.
And on the flip side, if you're trying to express something important, being mindful of your own body language can make a big difference in how your message is received.
So I should be aware of things like making eye contact, using hand gestures to emphasize points, and even my posture.
Exactly. Standing or sitting up straight can convey confidence, which is especially important when you're speaking a language you're still learning. It shows that you believe in what you're saying.
I've noticed that when I'm feeling nervous or unsure of myself, I tend to slouch or avoid eye contact. I hadn't realized how much that might be undermining my communication.
It's something we all do often without even realizing it. But the good news is that we can train ourselves to be more aware of our body language and use it to our advantage.
This is all so empowering. It's like realizing that I have more control over my communication than I thought.
You do, and the more you practice, the more natural and confident you'll become.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Think of every interaction as an opportunity to learn. Watch how other people use their body language, pay attention to how it makes you feel,
Okay.
and then experiment with incorporating some of those techniques into your own communication.
It's like turning everyday life into a language learning laboratory.
Exactly. And the best part is you don't need any special equipment or textbooks. You just need to be observant and willing to experiment.
So we've talked about how body language can help us understand others and express ourselves more effectively.
Right.
But I'm also curious about the role of cultural differences in nonverbal communication. Is a smile always a smile, no matter where you are in the world?
That's a great question, and it's one that English learners in particular need to be aware of. While some nonverbal cues are universal,
Yeah.
many others are culturally specific.
So what might be considered polite or friendly in one culture could be interpreted differently in another.
Absolutely. For example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is seen as a sign of respect and attentiveness,
Okay.
while in others it can be perceived as aggressive or confrontational.
I can see how that could lead to misunderstandings, especially if you're not aware of those cultural nuances.
Exactly. And it's not just about eye contact.
Right.
The amount of personal space people prefer, the way they use gestures,
Yeah.
even the way they interpret facial expressions, can vary significantly from culture to culture.
So how can English learners navigate these cultural differences in nonverbal communication? It seems like a potential minefield.
The key is to be observant and to do your research. Learn about the customs and norms of the cultures you interact with. And don't be afraid to ask questions if you're unsure about something.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's better to ask for clarification than to risk causing offense or misinterpreting a situation.
Exactly. And remember, everyone makes mistakes, especially when they're learning about a new culture. The important thing is to be open-minded, respectful, and willing to learn.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm starting to realize that nonverbal communication is a much more complex and nuanced topic than I ever imagined.
It is, and it's a lifelong learning process.
Wow.
The more you learn about nonverbal communication, the more you'll appreciate the subtle ways in which we communicate with each other, both consciously and unconsciously.
Now, I'm curious, are there any specific exercises or techniques that people can use to improve their ability to read and understand body language? I feel like I need to start practicing these skills.
Absolutely. One simple but effective technique is what we call people watching.
People watching, you mean just observing people in public?
Exactly. Find a spot where you can sit comfortably and simply observe the interactions happening around you. Pay attention to people's facial expressions, their posture, their gestures. Try to guess what they might be talking about or how they might be feeling based on their nonverbal cues.
It sounds like a fun way to turn everyday life into a learning opportunity.
It is, and it's a great way to train your eye to notice those subtle signals that most people miss.
Are there any other exercises we can try?
Another great way to practice is to watch videos or movies with the sound off. Try to interpret the emotions and intentions of the characters based solely on their body language.
That's a great idea. It's like a game that can help you hone your nonverbal decoding skills.
It is. And there are lots of online resources available, like websites and YouTube channels dedicated to nonverbal communication.
Oh, wow.
You can find videos of experts analyzing body language in different situations, which can be really helpful for learning to identify specific cues.
So we can combine real-life observation with online learning to really deepen our understanding of nonverbal communication.
Exactly. And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you expose yourself to different forms of nonverbal communication, the better you'll become at reading and understanding those subtle signals.
It's like learning any new skill. It takes time and effort,
Yeah,
but the rewards are well worth it.
I couldn't agree more. And for English learners, this skill can be especially valuable, helping you communicate more effectively and build stronger relationships, even if you're still working on your language skills.
I'm excited to start incorporating these techniques into my daily life. I'm already starting to see the world in a new light, noticing all these subtle cues that I've been missing for years.
That's the power of understanding nonverbal communication. It can truly change the way you interact with the world around you.
So we've talked about the theory and the techniques, but I'm curious to see how this all plays out in real life. Can you give us some examples of how understanding nonverbal communication can help us navigate different social situations?
Absolutely. Let's start with a scenario you might encounter in a professional setting.
Okay.
Imagine you're in a meeting and your boss is presenting a new project. They seem enthusiastic about it, but as you watch their body language, you notice some inconsistencies.
What kind of inconsistencies should we be looking for?
Well, they might be talking about the project's potential for success, but their shoulders are slumped and they avoid making eye contact with the team. Their voice might lack its usual energy.
So their words are saying one thing, but their body language is telling a different story. What could that mean?
It could mean that they might not be as confident in the project as they're letting on. There could be underlying concerns or doubts that they haven't verbalized yet.
So in that situation, being observant of those nonverbal cues can give us a deeper understanding of what's really going on.
Exactly. It's about reading between the lines, not just listening to the words, but also paying attention to the unspoken messages.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Do you have any other scenarios where understanding body language can be particularly helpful?
Let's shift gears and consider a more social setting.
Okay.
Imagine you're on a first date. How can you tell if the other person is interested?
I would assume things like smiling and laughing would be good signs.
Those are certainly positive indicators, but we need to look beyond the obvious.
Oh, okay.
Is the person leaning towards you, making eye contact and mirroring your body language? Or are they constantly checking their phone, fidgeting, or looking around the room?
I see your point. It's about looking for those subtle cues that indicate genuine interest and engagement.
Exactly. And the same principles apply in other social interactions,
Yeah.
whether you're meeting new people, networking at an event, or trying to build stronger relationships with colleagues or friends.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools for understanding people and navigating social situations with more confidence.
It's been my pleasure to share these insights with you.
Before we say goodbye, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners, especially those who are learning English as a second language?
I would say embrace the power of nonverbal communication. It's a universal language that can help you connect with people from all over the world. Pay attention to those subtle cues, practice your own nonverbal skills, and don't be afraid to use them to express yourself, even if you're still working on your English fluency.
That's fantastic advice. And remember, everyone, this is just the beginning of your journey into the world of nonverbal communication. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep observing the fascinating language of human behavior.
And if you'd like to learn more about today's topic,
Yes.
be sure to visit our website. You'll find vocabulary lists, exercises, and other resources to help you deepen your understanding of nonverbal communication.
And of course, we encourage you to subscribe to QuickSpeak so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. We have lots of exciting deep dives planned, covering a wide range of topics to help you improve your English skills.
Thanks for joining us today.
Until next time, happy learning!